Good morning. I am Melissa Agnes, and these are Morning Lives with me, Melissa Agnes, a daily space to help leaders like you stay grounded and connected to your inner strength, your inner resilience, your purpose, your inner clarity, all the things. So if you're doing work that matters, which you are, and you want to lead from unwavering steadiness, increased clarity, and deeper connection, and when I say connection, I mean connection to self, connection to source, God, creator, divine, quantum, universe, whatever you want to call it, that thing that's bigger than us, and connection to those that you are leading as you step into what you're called to do. These morning lives are for you. Every weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, I am here live on LinkedIn and IG simultaneously to share one anchoring message, one message that I hope inspires and helps you remember really what's real, what's true, and what's yours, and one grounding, which I'll talk about in a few minutes when we get there if you are new. One thing I like to say is I'm not here to necessarily teach you anything new. I'm simply here to remind you of what's true. So let's begin. There is a lag. So when I speak, you hear me a few seconds later. And for those of you who are just joining, when I look down, I'm looking at you. For those of you who are just joining, we may go over the 30-minute mark today, because what I have to share with you today is like not a lot, but it's so juicy and it's so good and it's so beneficial, and I want to do it justice. Okay, so I speak often about the three intelligence centers, the brain, the heart brain, the gut brain. But what I've never done on this show is give you the science behind them. And I got a very clear message. I got woken up in the middle of the night. It was like, you're going to do the science today. So great, that's what we're doing. I'm going to share this science so that you can better understand how powerful your system being your human body is, and what a incredible leadership, like potent leadership skill you have access to. I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but that you have access to, that the majority of leaders in our world today, the majority of adults and humans in our world today have not been taught how to access. And I want to teach you how to access it. In fact, I teach you how to access it every single morning. But today we're going to put a little bit of the science behind it, and I'm going to share a little bit more about it. So if you have questions, please type them in the chat. I will respond. I'm really giving you a lot today. Okay, so I do these guest lectures regularly for universities and colleges around the world. And yesterday I was doing one for Belmont University in Nashville. And the students were really great. They asked some great questions. And one of them, somebody asked at one point, they said, what if your gut steers you wrong? And I asked the question to the audience, or to the students. I said, has anybody experienced their gut serving them wrong, pointing them in the wrong direction, right? Gut being that instinct, intuition, whatever word you want to call it or use, that's the word that we were using yesterday in class. And most of them raised their hand, including the professor, raised their hand and said, yeah, my gut has steered me wrong. And I asked, was it your gut or your brain that you were listening to? And everybody kind of sat back and went, I don't actually know. So then the next question was, well, how do we know? So today I want to answer that question. How do you know? How do you know when you are being given, granted, guided with clarity and like divine wisdom that this is the next step that you should take when you are making critical decisions as a leader? And when do you know the difference? How do you know the difference between that intuition, gut, etc., and the voice in your head, your brain, and your fear? And so I'm going to answer that question as part 2. But first, I want to share about the actual science of what exists in our body, because we have more than just one brain, even though society has really put all of the value and recognition to the brain. All right, so the brain, let's start there. The head brain, okay? It's our cognitive intelligence. So this is the central processor of logic, language, and reasoning. The brain, the head brain, receives and interprets input from both the heart brain and the gut brain. So we have 3 intelligence centers. Through it, though the brain is often mistakenly seen as the sole commander. That is a mistake. That is a mistake. There's a lot going wrong with our world. And if more leaders knew how to access the other intelligence centers in our body, I believe that the world would not be in such chaos. So this is why it's so powerful. That's why it's so important. This is why I'm going to spend a little bit more than 30 minutes today. So the brain tends to dominate, especially in Western culture, which is why many people are disconnected from the wisdom of their body. Most people are cut off from the neck down and don't feel or receive or hear the wisdom that the body gives, provides. Most people don't, and it's not anybody's fault. It's just not what we've been taught. And it's such a miss. So let's fix that. So that's the brain, okay? That's the head brain. Then we've got the heart brain, the second intelligence system, or the second intelligence center. So the heart, the science. The heart, it has its own intrinsic nervous system with over 40,000 neurons. It literally thinks and feels. Your heart literally thinks and feels. So your heart generates, we've talked about this in the past, your heart generates an electromagnetic field, right? That extends past your bodily border. And this electromagnetic field is kind of like a portal. It opens you up to receiving the infinite intelligence that is all around us all the time in energy form. Energy is wave, is currency, which carries information. That information comes in through the heart portal, okay? And it sends those, through the electromagnetic signals, it sends more information to the brain than it receives. The brain is not meant to be our sole intelligence center. It actually receives more than it gives, okay? So the heart center detects and responds to energetic cues in the environment, like I just said. It picks up on emotion, on intention, on resonance, even before your brain cognitively registers a given situation or scenario. This is the information that comes in through the heart portal. And when you are in coherence, guess what? We get into coherence every single morning together. When you are in coherence, which is calm, balanced state with your regulated nervous system, this creates a state of physiological harmony in your body that positively affects and strengthens your brain function and decision making. Your heart does so much to serve your brain. Most people are cut off from the neck down. So that's a little bit about the science, the research on the heart. Just a little bit, but enough. Then we have the third energy center. We have the gut, so the solar plexus, right? When we breathe together in the morning, I say breathe in through the heart, breathe out and go and let that air go into your belly. What you're doing is you're creating this loop and you're activating. There's a method to my madness, guys. You're activating the heart center and the gut center through breath every morning with me. So the gut brain is an enteric nervous system, or is an enteric nervous system that contains over 500 million neurons. So the heart brain has over 40,000 neurons. The gut brain has over 500 million neurons. Sometimes it's referred to as the second brain, rightfully so. So this gut brain is deeply tied to intuition, to your instincts, and to subconscious processing. Your brain doesn't subconsciously process, your gut does, okay? So the gut is often the first response, or the first to respond to perceived threats or opportunities, even before conscious thought. So notice a pattern here. Your heart receives information before your brain does, and your gut responds to information before your brain does. Your gut interprets visceral truths. Do you ever walk into a room and something happened, or somebody says something, or you presented with a situation and you know, you have this knowing. That comes from the gut. And when we are cut off from the neck down, we lose our access to that, which is really, really problematic. So if something feels off or aligned or exciting. And what happens is that data is sent upstream to the brain. How does it get sent upstream to the brain? So we have a vagus nerve, which is the body's longest cranial nerve. And this vagus nerve allows for rapid two-way communication between the gut, the heart, and the brain. It connects all three of these centers. And here's the part that blew my mind when I learned about it, is 90% of the vagus nerve's signals travel upstream, travel upward from the body to the brain, not the other way around. So what happens when we cut ourselves off at our neck and we lose access to the insight and the sensations, all the things of our body? We're cutting off 90% of that information that's traveling through the vagus nerve that would serve us, serve our leadership, serve our decision making, give us clarity, give us wisdom, give us guidance. So when the heart is in coherence, which is calm rhythmic patterns, it helps bring the entire nervous system into alignment. And this state of coherence makes it easier for the brain to process the information and for the gut to contribute clear, aligned, intuitive input, as well as for the heart. Doing our 10-minute morning grounding reaps so many benefits, especially when you do it every single day, at least once. So joining me, that's why I show up for you every single morning, is to give you an excuse, a permissioning, a reason, a way to do this work. Okay, so that's a little bit of the science. I'm just looking through my notes to see if anything else, if there's anything else I want to share. I guess what I'll share is this. Leaders who integrate their cognitive brain, so their brain, their emotional brain, so their heart brain, and their intuitive brain, their gut brain, intelligence centers, etc., tend to make more well-rounded decisions, especially during periods of uncertainty, unknown, change, etc. And this is supported by research in fields like emotional intelligence and neurocardiology, as well as research by HeartMath Institute, research by Dr. Joe Dispenza. There's like countless people and organizations out there that are proving all of this with science, because this is real. This isn't woo-woo. This isn't make-believe. And this shows us that leveraging these multiple brains can enhance your decision-making, your resilience, your leadership effectiveness, and all of the things that you need and are here to accomplish, need to do in order to accomplish the things that you're here to accomplish. Okay, so that is the science. We don't just have one brain. In fact, here's how I'll end with the science is our brain was never meant to be the sole command center for our intelligence. Most people, like I just said, in my experience, are cut off from the neck down. They've silenced the information that comes up through the vagus nerve. Our brain is meant to work in synchronicity with these two other centers and is meant to be the processor. So the heart brain inputs information, the gut brain gives us instinct and knowings and all these things, deep wisdom, and then through the vagus nerve, that information goes up to the brain to help us make clear action steps, take action on that information. I'm going to share something really important with you. At the start of COVID, I sat at some really important and really interesting leadership tables around the world, virtually around the world. And one of the things that I noticed that will forever stay with me is that these leaders were some of the most important, powerful leaders. And even those leaders were looking for leaders to give them clarity and answers. Leaders need leaders. Most leaders, in my very deep experience in crisis management, look externally for validation, for decision making, for answers to their questions. And during COVID, I don't know if you remember, but in North America, just speaking about North America, there was about a 6-week gap between when COVID struck North America and when leaders actually started to communicate somewhat effectively. In that 6-week gap, obviously, panic exacerbated, right? Panic ensued. Other people's voices and agendas were put into the void. So now even more panic, even more fear, even more misinformation, miscommunication, lack of clarity. As a result, what happened? At Crisis Ready Institute, we call that the crisis response penalty. What was the crisis response penalty? More deaths than necessary, more economic impact than necessary, more fear and panic and disturbance, disruption than necessary. And I was sitting in such an interesting position to watch it unfold. And what I've discerned from that is even leaders need leaders, and that's because leaders haven't been taught how to access the information that exists within your body. Most people look externally for validation, for clarity, and for answers. But if everybody's looking externally and nobody has the answers because you're leading through an unprecedented situation, what do? Nothing happens. What happens when nothing happens? More crisis response penalty, more impact, more material impact, more disruption. When we learn how to access the other two intelligence centers, we may not gain access to the whole picture, answers to the whole puzzle or the whole picture right away, but you do gain access to the clarity and the answers to the next steps to lead you in the right direction. Speaking from both expert experience in my consulting and my work in crisis comms, as well as my own personal experience of expanding my own access to these intelligence centers and experiencing the impact of that. So let's go back to the questions that I was asked yesterday while I was teaching. What if your gut steers you wrong? My answer to that was, were you listening to your gut or to your brain? Most people sat back and said, I actually don't know. So the better question that came out from that, which I'm grateful for, was, how do you know? How do you discern between your brain trying to keep you safe and give you logic and these other two input from these other two centers that can give you guidance and clarity and infinite wisdom that you can't just access alone from your brain, especially in moments of unknowns? I say it almost every single day in these sessions, that your brain is where we house the fear. So oftentimes, fear is taking over and the voice in your head is fear. You don't want to be making fear-based decisions as a leader, but most leaders do because they don't know this stuff. I've experienced it, I witnessed it, it is very true. So the answer is, how do you learn to discern between true clarity and noise that's happening in your brain? First, you have to learn to hear it. And second, you have to learn to listen to it. Both of these obviously are choices. Choice to learn to hear, choice to learn to listen. What do I mean by this? Learning to hear, if most people, we've been raised and brought up in a society that has programmed us to really value the brain and have completely dismissed the other two intelligence centers that exist intrinsically in our bodies, because the science wasn't ready for this to be taught back when we were taught. But now we have it, now we know. So most people, as a result, like I keep saying, are cut off from the neck down, which means their vagus nerve is quieted. So learning to access your body, we do this every single morning together, is the differentiator, is your superpower. The more we can get still and breathe into these centers and breathe into our body, the more we gain access to the answers and the clarity that we're seeking, especially in the moments when nobody else has the answers and they're looking to you to lead. That's the first step. We have to unprogram our programming, right? We haven't been programmed properly, for lack of a better way of saying that. So learning to hear it and then learning to listen to it, that comes with trust. If you're asking, what if it guides you wrong, then you don't have a deep enough, in my experience, relationship with your intuition, with your gut, with your heart center, and your heart brain and your gut brain. And that just takes time. Because when you have a deep connection with it, you know that it's never going to guide you wrong. You've got the lived proof. It's earned its credibility. So that takes time. That takes first hearing it and then choosing to listen to it. And here's what's going to happen, almost inevitably. When your heart brain or your gut brain tell you to do something, they give you a decision or clarity or an action item or whatever, and your brain processes and is like, okay, here's what I can do with that. In the moment that you receive and hear and feel that information, you're going to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that that is the right move. The next moments to follow, you can almost count on 99.9% of the time, especially at the beginning, that your brain is then going to kick in and start going, oh, you can't do that. That doesn't make any sense. There's no evidence for that. It'll give you every single reason to doubt. That's when you have to do the work to choose to listen. You have to remember that in that moment, I knew. And I hear my voice. I hear the voice in my head that's giving me all the reasons why people aren't going to believe me, or people are going to look for proof, or I'm not going to be able to justify this, or it makes no actual logical sense right now. But when you trust it, down the line with retrospect, you will gain that credibility. You will look back and go, holy moly, my brain didn't know yet how right my gut and my heart were. But you have to give yourself that opportunity to build up that credibility. And that takes time, because over the last decades, most people have only been listening to their brain, so it takes time. And this is what I do. Now this is what I'm going to actually declare for the first time, actually. This is what I do. I don't do crisis anymore. I help leaders fast track the unwiring, the unprogramming, to reprogram to be fully connected to all three intelligence centers so that you can lead your mission in alignment with clarity, with infinite, deep wisdom and knowings and knowledge, and trust it. That is what I do. So if you're interested, hit me up. Send me a DM, send me an email, send me a message. That is also what I do with you every single morning here in a simplistic form, by doing the groundings and the drop-ins. The more we create the pathway through our drop-ins, the easier it is for you to access this infinite guidance and clarity and wisdom when your brain is scattered. And I'll say, before we do our drop-in, which we're going to do in just a second, I already prefaced that today is going to go a little bit longer. I forgot what I was going to say. Is what? Hold on, let me think. Oh, I was going to share my experience, and I'd love to hear your experience. If you're listening and you have a good connection and relationship with your body and your deeper knowings, the sound, because everybody's body has a different signature, right? So I'll share my experience. I know, so those of you who are watching the video and not listening to the podcast, or listening to the podcast, I should say, not watching the video, I am pointing to right outside of my head on the left. Right here is where my brain gets loud to keep me from listening to my gut brain and my heart brain, for a lack of a better way of saying it. When I have a knowing, this is essentially what fear, I used to call it my crazy. I don't call it my crazy anymore. Now it's just, I understand that it's fear-based. It's my ego, it's my individuality that is protecting me and trying to keep me safe, right? So it'll rattle off and it'll get really loud of all the reasons I shouldn't do this, or I can't do this, or it's impossible to do that, or people are gonna think I'm crazy, or whatever it is. That voice that sits right here in my body, for me, for you, it might be something very different, gets very, very loud. The intuition, the information that is not fear-based, but factual, but actually true, that comes from the heart and the gut, is really, really quiet. So that's kind of a battle when you're beginning to learn how to hear and learn how to listen, is you have to be able, part of the work is being able to differentiate between the voice of fear, we're going to call it for the purpose of this, and the voice of truth. And the voice of truth, especially at the beginning, is often this little subtle whisper that usually comes with an elevated emotion. it usually comes with this like hint of excitement, or this like, just this, you feel it, you hear it, and you're like, oh, that's truth, right? But it's so subtle, especially at the beginning. Whereas the voice of fear that has been working to keep you safe and that has more rapport with you, likely, than your instincts, than your other two voices, or the other voices of your other two intelligence centers, is really loud and really convincing. So part of the work, when I say first you have to hear it, is getting quiet and still enough so that you can hear the whisper. And then the next choice of listening to the whisper, part of the work in that is choosing to go, voice that is super loud right now, I understand that you are trying to keep me safe, but you are not the voice of truth. And so I'm going to follow the voice of truth. I'm going to follow the whisper, and I'm going to see where that leads me. And that's how you build up credibility and rapport and deeper connection with your own body and your intelligence centers over time. Repetition, 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 choice, 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 every step of the way. Remembering that you can count on that voice of fear to kick in and to try to hold you back. It will keep you small. And you're not here to be small. You're not here to play small. You're here to move mountains. And those mountains will be more easily moved the more you listen to the intelligence, the infinite wisdom that comes from your body. I love this so much. Okay, let's do it. Let's do our drop-in. I would love to hear in the chat, anybody who wants to share, like, what's the signature for you? I've shared the voice and the quiet for me. What is it for you? And that voice, that quiet, I'm calling it infinite wisdom. I'm calling it connection to self. But for others, it's connection to God. Not necessarily for others. It's not necessarily different for me, but it's the divine. It's that deeper knowing, right? It's access to information that our small little brains, as intelligent as you may be, has nothing on the infinite wisdom that we have access to when we open up these two intelligence centers and when we choose to hear and we choose to listen. Okay, let's do a drop-in. Let's practice this. We're going to do 10 minutes. So we're going to go over by roughly that this morning, maybe 12 minutes longer. So for those of you who are joining for the first time, this is the part of the session where we get quiet, where we get into coherence. All you have to do is get still, choose this moment as a gift to yourself, and take it seriously. What does that mean? That means closing off distractions. That means if you are driving or you are hustling and bustling and doing something where you can't get still in this moment, that's fine. Come back to the recording. This is free. It's available to you. It's available on LinkedIn. It's available on YouTube. And it's available through every single podcast platform. Just look for Morning Lives with Melissa Agnes. If you are in a public space and you can get quiet, but you feel silly because there's people around, lead by example. Gift yourself this so that you can lead better, that you can show up in more alignment with more clarity. And I promise over time, people will start to wonder what your secret sauce is, what that thing is that you do in the morning, because when you come out of that, they want to be more like you. They feel it from you. It emanates from you. It is energy. It resonates. So you get to lead by example. So let it feel silly and choose to gift it to yourself anyway. And for what it's worth, I do this all the time when I'm in public. I don't care. Okay, we're going to do the halo active breath. So for those of you who are just joining for the first time, that is in through the nose, out through the mouth. I will guide. All you have to do is get still and breathe, follow my voice, and if your body tells you to do something different from what I'm sharing, and it feels good to do that, your body is your highest authority. Your body has the answers. That's where these two intelligence centers exist. So let's practice listening and hearing. Okay, so shutting down distractions and getting still, sinking into the seat that you are sitting on, whatever that may be. We're just going to call it the seat for today. Let me make sure you can still, okay, you can still hear me. And when you feel good, when it feels good to do so, either closing your eyes or just softening your gaze, whatever feels best to you. I want to make sure that you guys can still hear me because something kinked up with my audio. And let's start that breath, which is in through the nose.
Let me make sure you
and
can still hear
out
me.
through the mouth. And if you've already had a morning this morning, kind of feel free to just shake it out. If your day has already dayed. And for those of you who have an active mind this morning, one of the tricks that I like to do that actually really works for me is to simply say to my mind, either silently or out loud, I'll say, I hear you. You have so much to share. There's so much to do. I get it. But for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to get still. I'm going to be in my body so that I can have even more clarity. And when I come back and hear everything that you have to say to me, I will hear you even more. So grant me these next 10 minutes. And it may seem silly, but it really works. So try it for yourself. And on your next exhale, whenever that might be, exhaling through the mouth and following that breath down with your awareness, down your throat, through your chest, through your belly, and landing in your sit bones. So what we're doing here is we're bringing our awareness, keep that breath flowing, bringing our awareness to the sensations of the seat against your body. Getting curious, keeping that breath flowing. What is the sensation of that seat against your body? There's no wrong answer. Even just this simple exercise allows us to choose where we put our awareness, which is really important, as well as it helps us open up and begin to really get into the body, feel into the body. Noticing too that seat, it's got you, which means that you can drop into it, you can sink in, you can let go, you can release tension, and the seat isn't going to mind, and it's not going to drop you, which means you are safe in this moment to be present, to feel good, and you are safe to breathe. Keeping that breath flowing, letting it feel good, letting it feel calming, letting it feel relaxing. And when your brain kicks into gear and starts thinking or speaking or being loud, just bring your mind. Say thank you to your mind. It means you're alive, and bring your awareness back to your breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And on your next inhale, invitation to follow that breath from your sit bones, inhaling through the nose, follow that breath up through your belly and landing on your heart space. And if it feels supportive, you might choose to bring a hand to your heart so that you can help your awareness land in the center. Physical cues can help us focus our mind. And as you continue to keep that breath circulating, in through the nose, out through the mouth, imagining that is in fact your breath, your heart, that is taking in those breaths. So this you might, as you breathe in through the nose, expand your heart space, expand your chest cavity. Let that air come in through your heart center. And as you exhale through the mouth, let's follow that air, that breath from your heart down to your belly, down to your gut, down to your solar plexus. And that's the pattern that we're going to do. We're going to breathe in through the nose, imagining that heart space is what's taking in all of that breath, all of that energy, all of that life, opening up the chest cavity. And as you exhale out through the mouth, following that breath down to your belly, letting that feel safe, letting that breath anchor you into your belly, letting it feel good. This is your life force. This is your divine right. It's allowed to feel so good. Taking that breath on your own, in through the nose, opening up that heart space, bringing in that oxygen, letting it feel good out through the mouth, following that breath down into the belly, into the gut, solar plexus, letting that feel so good, and repeating. Keeping that breath flowing and simply noticing what you notice. If you notice your brain come back online, great. Means you're alive. Bring your focus back to your breath. Focus on expanding that heart center with your inhales. Exhaling through the mouth and going deeper into your belly. Expanding that heart center as you inhale through your nose. Exhaling through the mouth. Sinking into your belly. Are you able to open your heart 3% more with every inhale? And are you able to sink more and more into your belly, letting it feel so good by 3% more with every exhale? This is playful exploration. This is deepening the connection to your body so that you can access your other two intelligence centers so that you can lead with more clarity throughout your day, so that you can remember and stay in alignment, so that you can access more information to make more informed, innovative decision making. Keeping that breath flowing. How much more can you turn the dial up? How much more can you open up? How much more can you allow it to feel good in your body? And in our last few moments of breath, bringing your hand to your chest, let's take our moment of gratitude. Yesterday I spoke about gratitude and that it's an easy access. It's a hack as a portal to accessing your clarity, your grounding, your alignment. It's also the highest vibration, which I talked about yesterday and what that means for possibility-driven leadership and decision-making, which we need our mission-driven, purpose-driven leaders to be possibility leaders. And so in this moment, bringing a hand to your heart and feeling deep gratitude for whatever you're grateful for. Letting that thing that you declare you are grateful for wash over you. Let the gratitude envelop you. Let it help you open up even more. Feel even better in your body. elevate you, expand you. Really, truly feeling that deep gratitude. And when you're ready, wiggling your fingers and your toes, and coming back to the screen and sharing in the comments, how do you feel? What did you notice? Anything is, like, everything you notice, everything is valid. There is no wrong. There is no wrong. There just is. And we get to notice it and we get to explore it. And we get to allow it to deepen our connection with ourselves, with our intelligence centers, with the infinite divine, the infinite guidance, infinite intelligence that exists beyond us. Strengthening our connection from our gut brain to our heart brain, right up with the vagus nerve, through the vagus nerve to the brain, so that you can lead in alignment. You can lead with access to clarity and answers to the hard questions with more ease and allowing it to feel good in your system. Stress doesn't feel good. It's addictive, but it doesn't feel good. Not in the same way, at the very least, as tapping into the body in this way does. We have 3 intelligence centers. Today, I explored the science that shows us a little bit more, that tells us a little bit more about each of these 3 intelligence centers. We have the brain, which is our processor. We have the heart brain, which opens up to infinite guidance, infinite wisdom, infinite intelligence that is around us all the time. It intakes that infinite intelligence. We have our gut brain that has over 500 million neurons in it. That is absolutely our second brain. That gives us visceral responses that are truth. Visceral responses of truth. And with the vagus nerve, 90% of the information that flows through the vagus nerve flows upstream to the brain. The majority of people haven't been taught that. The majority of people are cut off at the neck and don't have access yet to their bodies. Meanwhile, 90% of the infinite intelligence and information that gives us the clarity that we seek, that gives us the answers to the questions that plague us, comes from the body and travels up to the brain, so then the brain can make sense of it and help us act on it. This is one of the most profound visionary leadership skills that the majority of us have not been taught. What I do as a coach, as a mentor, whatever you want to call it, is I help you unprogram the way you've been programmed to only access your brain, and help you fast track your access to your heart and to your gut so that you can lead with wholeness, from wholeness. Because we need more aligned, purpose-driven leaders who stay out of the voice of fear, who choose to hear the information that comes in through the body and choose to listen to it. But those choices, after decades of doing it differently, only listening to the brain, those choices can be hard in the moment. So it takes practice, and it serves to have a coach, a guide that gives you faster access to being able to do this and to being able to trust this. And that is what I do. And that is why I show up here every single morning, weekday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, to help you understand these things a little bit more, and to do at least a 10-minute drop-in where you get to practice this skill. Judith writes, she noticed, this is not just for leadership, but my life decisions as well. This is everything. This is everything that we've never been taught. It serves in every single way. It makes us happier. It's a pathway to joy, to happiness, because what brings joy and happiness is purpose. As human beings, we crave purpose. This supports that. And I'm speaking from so much experience when I say this. Shauna writes, still working on pulling that thread. I imagine what you mean is, I don't know actually what you mean. I'm curious to hear. And Stevie says, fantastic topic. Love it. So true. Trust your gut, as they say. In order to trust your gut, you have to hear your gut, and then you have to listen to your gut. That's the work, guys. That's the work, because we've spent decades being programmed to do something different, to do it differently. And I'm here saying there's a better way. There's a more accessible way. And it is your divine right. It exists. It is housed in your body. You just have to make the choice. And that's the work. All right, I will. Oh, wait, Shauna writes, that was from if you could hear your gut. Got it. If you can hear your gut. Yeah. Okay, and I'll say this again, just to kind of close out. The voice of the brain is so loud. And it's like gotten louder over time, right? Because this is what we've usually, this is what we tend to listen to, is the voice of the brain. That's what society has told us to value, is our brain. Not wrongfully, it's just incomplete. The voice of your gut and your heart brains are, especially at the beginning, a faint whisper. But that whisper is audible. That whisper is, you could hear that whisper if you choose to hear it and if you choose to listen to it. And guess what? The more you listen to it, the louder it gets, and the quieter the voice of fear, the brain voice that wants to keep you small, gets. Because over time, you realize through experience that your body is the most credible source of alignment, of wisdom, of decision making, etc. There are some days still where my fear brain, my fear voice is very, very loud, and I have done the work so much that I can instantly get quiet and hear the faint whisper of my body that's coming in through my body. That's taken a lot of work. There are also other days where my body is so loud and I'm so tuned in, I'm so attuned and aligned, and my brain is completely silent. I'm like, let's just go with everything that I know to be true. We're human, this is the work. But we need more leaders who are ready and able to do this work, to show up differently, to be even more resonant, to lead your mission, to lead your purpose in alignment, in truth, in deep clarity, and with a deep resonance that helps others trust and believe you, because this is powerful in that sense too. That is a topic for another day. Actually, I'm pretty sure I've talked about that in one of these sessions before. So with that, thank you. I am so grateful to you for showing up today, for hearing this, for putting your own thoughts and critical thinking to this and exploring this, and for doing the drop-in and doing the work and leading the way that you're choosing to lead. The world needs more of you. If you think that this message from today, that this session would serve another leader in your network or in your friend group or wherever it might be, please share it with them. We need more leaders who are fully online. All right, and with that, I will be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another morning live with me, Melissa Agnes, where we'll do something else. We'll do a drop-in, but I'll explore some other nugget of wisdom and truth and support, in aim to support you. All right, you are so welcome. I see your thank yous coming in. You are so welcome, and thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, because, oh guys, this is the work, and this is what the world needs. Okay, I'm sending you love. Whenever you feel the voice of fear or stress or anxiety or nervousness or insecurity or whatever it might be at any point today, remember your breath. Remember to get still. You can do it in 4 minutes, and it can change your world. All right, I'm sending you love. I will see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern, for another morning live with me, Melissa Agnes. Bye.